Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we are going to be taking a look at the NECA Kenner Tribute Rhino Alien. So I've been kind of burnt out on the NECA Alien and Predator stuff for a while, but I still really did want to check out this release because I have a lot of nostalgia for those old Kenner Alien figures. When I was pretty young, my friend down the road from me used to have all of the figures. I remember him trying to show me aliens when I was in like kindergarten, and I couldn't get past the scene with the chest burster trying to come out of Ripley, and I think that terror that I experienced watching the very beginning of that movie with him got me hooked on the coolness and the mystery of these aliens. And I think back then I probably would have been disappointed to find out that the movie didn't have aliens based on a whole bunch of different animals. But I still love the ingenuity that went into these Kenner figures. I ended up picking up all the ones I could from a flea market years ago. In fact, here is our matching Kenner release. And as you can see, there are a lot of elements carried over between these two. I was kind of comparing some of the previous releases NECA did with this one, and noted that a lot of those other releases they've done so far have taken some pretty big liberties with the design of the Kenner figure to bring it into these new modern figures, which is to be expected. They are much newer, much more detailed figures than what Kenner put out. But looking at the old 90s one compared to this one, I think there's actually a lot of detail that they've captured verbatim between the two, which is kind of impressive. The overall shape of the head is relatively the same with the rear hips and legs, the little tail sticking out of the back, the shoulder spikes, all of that matches up pretty well. And even the colorization, the dark areas on the old Kenner toy match the dark areas on this new one. Honestly, the biggest difference I can see in terms of just straight up design choice are the feet, where they kind of gave them like these little hoof looking things on the Kenner toy. We have more alien looking front legs here, but the back legs match the Kenner toy pretty closely. So this may be the closest one-to-one relation we've gotten with one of these NECA Kenner tributes so far. So no real accessories to speak of on this figure. He does come with a comic book, but that's really about it. But we do have a very cool head sculpt on this guy. He's got all these extra little fangs sticking out the front, mimicking the Kenner toy. I think my lower jaw's a little crooked there. That bottom tooth is a little out of whack, but it's soft rubber, so it can kind of be bent back into shape. So we've got some really cool detail. There's kind of like a silvery sheen over all of the opaque parts on this figure. He's got the big horn sticking out of the front with the smaller one behind it. Do have a jaw in here, which is hard to pull out, but it's kind of par for the course with these alien figures. It has kind of a cool orangey red color to it. Got the silver teeth there at the end. It's pretty damn long too. It does seem a little bent. So yeah, that's a feature, I guess. With all the kind of biomechanical stuff around his very thick neck there. And you can even see the back of the head starts pretty far down, so there's a lot of detail in here. It's a really great translucent orange with some of this darker reddish orange back here, and then it goes into the opaque parts at the front. The dome has a very insect-like look going through it. It is translucent orange, and this can actually be removed. I don't really care that it's removed, but we do have a really cool bright orange translucent sculpt underneath with that reddish orange in the back, and a little spike coming off the back from the Kenner figure. Does fit through the hole here, so it's the one little part of the dome that sticks through. Initially, when I got this guy out of the box, I was a little disappointed. His back was very translucent and not painted very much, but this does match the Kenner figure once again. You have all the tubes coming out here, which start very translucent, become opaque towards the top, and a very cool spiky look, which I dig. It's got these big shoulder spikes coming up here. More great biomechanical detail. His arms are almost completely opaque, but there is some little bits of translucent orange poking through. And then we do have the translucent orange blade there on his arm. And as I mentioned earlier, he's got this cool hand design. I think we saw this with one of the other figures. I can't remember offhand. It's been a while. But he's got the two little thumbs off to the side and the kind of fused together two center fingers there, which has a really neat look to it. The chest itself, we kind of had the traditional rib cage, but it's like over the translucent plastic, where you can see the translucent plastic through it, which is really cool. It's like Alien meets E.T., and I kind of dig that. He also does have this kind of like traditional little loops over his shoulders here. So a lot of that same alien detail on just a very buff body for this figure, and a very thick lower torso there as well. The legs, we have these high spikes back here, this very opaque kind of shell over the front with the orange translucent detail underneath, looking very cool. Big spiky double kneecaps there, this back bent leg with the another translucent orange spike, and then some detail here. And then, once again, those big hoof-like feet that he has, which mirror the hands. The hands are pretty similar in design, it's just that these are much shorter and stubbier. And then, of course, we have his little teeny tiny little tail sticking out the back there. Articulation on this guy is kind of a mixed bag for me. We got his jaw that opens, not as much as I thought it might, but I really can't see how it would open further without looking goofy, so that's fine with me. The tongue, of course, is articulated. I lost it down in the recesses there, but you saw that earlier. The head is on kind of a pin and socket joint, I guess, so it will swivel side to side. No real pivot in it. And then you can bring it down pretty much so his chin is touching his chest. Well, if his jaw's open, it will, but closed, it's a little bit of a gap there. And then it can come up decently far. I mean, the plastic of the head is touching the plastic of the back. However, when you get this guy into a quadrupedal pose, his head's always pointing pretty far down, which is once again accurate to the Kenner toy, but just for display purposes, I do kind of wish they would have done some double hinge system where you could put the head a little further back, get a little more clearance on there, and have him actually looking more straight ahead in his Rhino quadruped mode. But I guess kind of a minor gripe, and it does once again match with that Kenner toy, so can't complain too much, I guess. The arms will swivel 360 degrees. They will come out to the side. Let's see, that's better than a 45-degree angle. Of course, you're going to run to limitations with his spikes back here hitting his body, but not too shabby there. We have a double jointed elbow there. It will also swivel it's just the top of the double joint there. The wrist is on a hinge and can also swivel. And then we have finger or toe articulation here at the front. We have a ball joint here at the torso, so he'll swivel side to side. He will rock a little bit side to side and then crunch okay amount forward and quite a bit back, which could help with getting some of those poses and getting his head to look up, I guess. So it's a little awkward when he's in this arched back position trying to be on all fours. I don't like the look of it as much, but I guess that kind of solves one of my complaints in a way. The legs will move forward and back. They go out to the side a little bit, once again hindered by the big spike here. They also swivel a little bit here at the upper leg. The double jointed knee with a decent amount of articulation in there. Really, it will collapse completely into itself without moving that first joint of the leg too much, but yeah, it works pretty well. You can also swivel at the top of that joint there as well, and the foot will pivot down, up, and does have an ankle pivot there as well. I thought he might have some tail articulation, but turns out it's just a soft rubbery piece, probably like a safety thing. So while it looks like there's a seam there, it doesn't appear to actually articulate. So here's our Rhino Alien compared to the Mantis and the Snake, the two other Kenner ones I could find pretty easily without having to dig through all my stuff. And I do dig how this looks together. They are pretty cool. Like I said, I have just a lot of nostalgia for these figures, the old Kenner ones specifically, I mean. And I think this Rhino may be the best representation of those old Kenner figures they've done yet. I'm pretty pleased with it. It's weird because I really don't care how these guys all scale together because it's just a mess anyway. Obviously, a Mantis and a Snake are pretty much smaller than a Rhino, and these are much larger than him when he's sitting in all fours, but you know what? It's cool. I dig the look of these all together. I gotta find that gorilla and that facehugger queen. I have no clue where I put them, but I'll find them eventually and have them all on display. I might end up just bringing these into work. I never picked up the Scorpion Alien because it really was, even in the Kenner line, just another generic alien, so I really didn't care to have that one. But these three guys together, I think look really cool. So that's about it for the Rhino Alien. Wow, it feels weird to actually shoot a review in a standard review format again. I have to say, overall, I'm really surprised at how durable this thing feels. I honestly thought with all the big, heavy bits that it would have to have on it, that somewhere on it would feel floppy or flimsy and just not like it would last for a long time. But while he is a little difficult to get in a quadruped pose without his legs maybe buckling under him a little bit, if you play around with it for just a few minutes, you can kind of get him into a pose that's okay. Obviously, this one isn't great. You can see his back legs not really flush with the ground, but I think overall it works pretty well for what it is. I already talked about how much I like how it pays real homage to the Kenner figure. It doesn't really take a lot of liberties, so it feels as it should to be what it is, and kind of has me excited for more from this line coming up. I don't know if they've announced anything new. I don't believe they have, because I feel like I would have paid attention to that, but it does make me happy that they will likely be continuing this line. So yeah, I would recommend this figure. And it's actually grown on me since I initially unboxed it. The day I unboxed it, I was kind of lukewarm on what it was, but the more I've kind of messed with it and looked at it in detail, the more I've kind of grown to appreciate what it is and how it all came together. So that's always nice to have happen, as opposed to getting something and being really excited about it out of the box and then kind of being more disappointed with it the more details you look at. I'd much rather have the opposite happen with a new figure. So that's it for this one. Let me know in the comments down below. If you guys picked this one up, do you like it? Do you dislike it? Which one do you want to see next in the Kenner Alien line? And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.